Welcome to everybody. My name is Adele Kroch and I'm from Food Focus, and it's a pleasure to be with you this morning. We are excited to partner with one of our long-standing sponsors, the DSA. The DSA has received a lot of positive feedback from the industry on the value of the webinars, so they decided to provide you with more. Today is the third webinar of the series of 10 webinars for this year that we are hosting with the DSA. Today we've got an interesting topic, and I'm excited to introduce you to Nala Manamela. But the Dairy Standard Agency, they organize these type of webinars for the industry for the importance of compliance with the law and related standards, national and international, and it's for the whole dairy value chain. This is the foundation of which the Dairy Standard Agency has been built, with its primary objective to promote compliance of milk and other dairy products with product composition, food safety, and metrology standards. To foot that they also want to focus, and for that the reason today is on their independent laboratory. The DSA Lab Services was established in 2019. In this webinar, Nala is the laboratory manager, and she will reveal the heart of the DSA Lab Services with a focus on the customized services rendered to the industry, the types of samples tested in the laboratory, and a clear overview of the basic principles of the analysis performed by the DSA Lab Services. It's a pleasure for me now to introduce you to Nala. So Nala achieved a BSc Microbiology and Biochemistry degree at the University of Limpopo in 2014. She started her career in the Biotechnology Research Laboratory at the University of Limpopo in 2015. The following year, she joined the Merier NutriScience team, where she worked in the microbiology lab and later in the dairy laboratory, where she progressed as a senior lab assistant. Nala joined the Dairy Standard Agency in January this year as the laboratory manager of the DSA Lab Services. So I am so grateful to hand you over to Nala now to present her presentation to us.
Good morning everyone. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am so happy that today we're meeting and we'll be talking about very interesting things that we are doing in the DSA lab. So today, welcome to the Dairy Standard Agency webinar, where in the Dairy Standard, us as a team, we are promoting the improvement of dairy quality and safety in the interest of dairy industry as well as the consumers. So our dairy standard, we are making a difference in the dairy industry. So we are working towards being the golden standard of the dairy industry. So in our lab, in the Dairy Standard Lab Services, we are divided into two parts, where we have the microbiology part as well as the chemical testing. So in the microbiology, we have the laboratory is using the automated tempo system for the numeration of aerobic count, E. coli, Escherichia coli, coliforms, Enterobacteriaceae, Staphylococcus aureus, Bacillus cereus, lactic acid bacteria, as well as yeast and mold. So these are playing a major role in making sure that the food that we consume is not spoiled or doesn't have a number of bacterial counts that may affect human health. So we are playing a major role behind the scene in making sure that our consumers are eating right food. And then the other test that we have in the microbiology we have the phosphatase test. So with the phosphatase test, one can ask, what do we do and what do we say, what do we test for? What are we looking for? So in raw milk, we know that milk is the best environment for microbial growth. We know that most of the microbial cells, they love milk because it has a lot of nutrients. So in this regard, for you to understand what we do or what we focus on when we run the phosphatase test, the background is that an enzyme, the enzymes that is most common in many organisms is alkaline phosphatase. So that is mostly in your bacterial cells, and when you know that your raw milk has a lot of bacterial cells, then in raw milk would have a lot of such alkaline phosphatase enzymes. And so during pasteurization, bacteria is deactivated as well as alkaline phosphatase enzyme, which gets denatured in the process. So when we run the phosphatase, we're expecting it to be negative during the test. So that will basically tell us that pasteurization in that process was effective. So that is when you'll see that we having the test that we run in the lab. Just to give you an overview, we have the first strips. I'm not sure if you can see where my cursors are. We having the yellow indication. So this first two yellow indications, they are indication of it could be raw milk or pasteurization that was not effective. And then we have A14 and then we have A15, where it gives you an overview of what we're expecting after the incubation. So what we do is we dip the strip inside the milk, the test milk, the sample, and then from there we incubate it at 36 degrees for 1 hour. So in that incubation period, there is a reaction that takes place where you have the results like that. So the yellow indicates no or inefficient pasteurization. So this is a very important test that we run just to make sure that the milk that is sent out onto the shelves is perfectly and successfully pasteurized. So that is why we run the phosphatase test. On the detection, the other test that we do is the detection of Brucella apotes, that is milk ring test. So this test, it's not done in the DSA lab, but we are in the process of getting the accreditation and being approved by Department of Agriculture. So while in that process, we are outsourcing our samples to Agricultural Research Council, that is at Onesteport Veterinary Institute. That is where we are sending all our samples there. So what happens is that every time when we're running the phosphatase test, if it tests positive, or with raw milk samples. So what we do, we send out the samples just to check if what is causing what element is causing the phosphatase test, if ever the sample was not successfully pasteurized. That is where we run that. And then we send the samples to ARC. So personal testing for controlled and notifiable disease must be registered or authorized by the South African Veterinary Council to perform the duties of a veterinary technologist. So the turnaround time is between 7 days and to 14 working days. So if you submit your samples, you give us that between the 7 to 14 working days period. And then the next test under microbiology that we do is the detection of inhibitory substances. So with inhibitory substances, milk samples are tested to ensure that there are no inhibitors such as antibiotics. So we can have an example of penicillin or cloxacillin, which may be used in the treatment of animals. So what happens, we use the Copen test. So the background of the Copen test, we have this purple medium, which inside we have the Bacillus thermophilus. This is a bacillus, you know that bacillus spores, they are very tolerant to heat. So what happens is that with this bacterial cell, the bacillus that is inside the medium is inactive, so it gets activated during the heating process that is above 50 degrees Celsius. So when you have a sample that has penicillin, would have your sample inhibiting the growth or the activeness of the bacillus cell, so it will not be active. Hence, in that process, it will not utilize the nutrients that are in the medium. So when that inhibitor stops the bacterial cell from reacting to that, you will have a positive result where the bacterium will not be active and utilize the medium. So in this yellow other tubes that you were seeing here, you see that the milk that is being inoculated has no presence of penicillin or any other antibiotics. So what it does is the temperature gets higher and the bacillus is active. It utilizes the nutrients that are in the medium, hence giving you the yellow reaction. So if there is no inhibitory substances in the milk, the color changes to yellow, like you can see it on the other tubes. So if there is inhibitory substances in the milk, the color will remain purple. So it is very important that we run this test for inhibitory substances. This is to confirm and to check that consumers are not drinking or eating anything that has antibiotics. Because in this instance, no human is supposed to be consuming any products that still have antibiotics. Then now we are going into the chemistry part. Under chemistry, we have the cryoscope instrument. So with the cryoscope instrument, this instrument is used for the determination of added water by freezing point depression. So 2 mL of the sample is super cooled to below its okay. So the thermistor probe determines the freezing point to the nearest 0.01 degrees Celsius. So the added water is then the added value water is then read off the table. So what we do is we firstly start by running the standards just to make sure that our instrument is still reading within the required way it's supposed to be reading. So in all of the instruments that we are running in the lab, first in the morning, what we do, we run the performance just to see if our instrument is still reading within specification. That is very critical, that before we start with the client samples, we are sure that our instruments are reading within the expected specifications. And now we're coming to the other instruments. The second instrument, this is one of the busiest and very important, like other instruments are important in the lab. This is for milk composition. We are using the Milkoscan instrument. So this instrument is using the infrared technology. And with this one, we are testing the liquid milk samples as well as the cream samples, mainly to determine fat, protein, lactose, total solids, solid non-fat, as well as urea. So the samples that we mostly test for, we test for cow milk, raw and processed, as well as goat milk, raw and processed. Milk composition using the milk scan. So in this one, milk samples are then heated to 40 degrees Celsius for 15 minutes. Then the samples are gently mixed, properly mixed. Then the measurement per sample takes plus minus 1 minute. All these parameters, the parameters fat, protein, lactose, total solids, solid, non-fat, and urea, they are reported as percentages. Instrument is calibrated on monthly basis and verifications are done daily before use. Like I said with the previous, with cryoscope, that in the morning or first before analysis, we run just instrument performance to verify that our instrument is still reading within specification. It is very crucial that we run that so that that there is a way of verifying the results that we are running for clients. Then we having determination of somatic cell counts. So with this one, we successfully do it using the phosomatic 7. So this instrument is run separately from the milk scan. Somatic cell count is recognized worldwide as the best single indicator for mastitis screening. So the measuring principle of phosomatic is based on a technique called flow cytometry. With this technique, a suspension of cell is stained and forced through a capillary tube, which is illuminated in front of a sensor. In the flow cell, the stained somatic cells are then exposed to light of a specific wavelength, and the cells then emit fluorescent light pulses which are counted and displayed. Milk samples are heated to 40 degrees Celsius for 15 minutes as well, then properly mixed. Then heated samples are on conveyor, like you can see with the samples that we have here. This instrument can test up to 100 samples per hour. So a number of checks need to be done before testing. So like I said, now with this third instrument, it is very crucial that we run checks in the morning or checks just before we run client samples, so as to make sure that our instrument is reading where it's supposed to be reading. So we're running the blanks and then followed by the carryover. Then we run repeatability. Our instrument has to be repeatable. And we have a specific a limit with percentage of repeatability where we're not supposed to exceed. That is very low. The repeatability, our instrument has to be really repeatable. Then we're running the internal and external control samples right before touching client samples. So when everything else passes, then that is where we proceed to the client samples. Then it's giving us the right to say that everything has been verified and everything is up to standard. Results are reported as number of somatic cells per ml. Then we have bacterial identification. So the DSA lab is in the process to build up capability to assist farmers in identifying specific bacteria causing bacteria that is causing the high somatic cell count. So this identification is done using a Vitek MS. This instrument is what we have in the lab currently. And then we have the mass spec microbial identification system. Vitek MS is an automated mass spectrometry microbial identification system that uses MALDI-TOF technology. Once the positive organism has been identified, antibiotic susceptibility can be performed using the Vitek compact. Sorry about that. Then we come to the turnaround time. With the chemistry test, the turnaround time is 24 hours from receiving the samples into the lab. And the extension that is on the microbiology, we know that with microbiology, we're having different incubation periods. So that depends on the incubation periods. We have the 24-hour incubation, we having the 48-hour, and we also have the 72-hour incubation. So mostly with most of the chemistry tests, we have in the 24 hours you receive your COA within 24 hours. But then with microbiology, unfortunately, we have to honor the incubation period. And these are the types of samples that are analyzed in the laboratory. We have in the liquid milk, can be processed cow and goat milk. Then we have a different range of cream samples, yogurt, we test for butter, cheese, dairy desserts, and that. So in most of this, we are running microbiology tests, and with liquid milk, that is where we run the somatic cells as well as the compositional testing. That is your fat, protein, lactose, total solids, and solid non-fat. The DSA lab also does calibration samples. So the DSA lab is the sole distributor of national and international calibration samples in the country. So under national calibrations, we have the samples that we distribute every month. So with the samples, we having raw milk, we have pasteurized milk, skim milk, UHT, raw cream, as well as raw milk for freezing point. So these are the samples that if ever any one of our clients would like to purchase this, they can contact the lab, and then we'll give them more information on when the order needs to be done, because we need to put everything in place by a certain date. So more information can be sent to our DSA lab. You can contact us through call or through our emails. Then for international samples, calibration samples, we have in QLIP samples, of which with this one, we are unable to distribute this ones on monthly basis, but then we do them bi-monthly. So in a year, it's total distribution of 6 times. So with this one, we also having, if a client wants to compare or wants to check the fat, protein, lactose, total solid, we also can make an arrangement, then we get that one, and then most we distribute somatic cell count milk samples as well as the urea. Thank you so much for your attention, and for more information, like I said, please contact DSA Lab at dairystandard.co.za. Alternatively, more information can be found on our website, where our contact numbers are there. And we are happy to assist at any time. So this is an overview of the part of the lab where we having our tempo system, where we're running our microbiology, and then the other side where we're having the chemistry analysis. So back there, we're having our identification site, where all identification of any other bacteria that are causing high level of somatic cell count is. So we are about solution to our country. Thank you so much for this. Thank you so much for all your time, and we are looking forward to working with you. And so we are working towards bringing a solution into our dairy industry as well as our consumers. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you, Nala, for that. Wow, you've got a beautiful lab. It must be absolute joy working in that lab.
It is. It is definitely. We are a team.
Now it's a time for the delegates to ask their questions. I see that there's people that's raising their hand. I cannot unmute you, so please make use of the question icon in the top. It's a little block with a question mark in it. And if you click on it, it will open up the screen where you can type the question. So please make use of that. In the meantime, Nala, so what I would like to know is if there's any of the attendees that's listening at the moment and they would like to change, the laboratory that they are currently using. You've now said that they must contact you. But how does the process normally work? Do the people need to bring in the samples to you? And when they submit the samples, do you give them guidance in terms of the size of the sample? So so it's two-phase questions. Where do they submit their samples, and how do they submit the samples?
Our lab is based at Technopark, that's in Centurion in Pretoria. But for more information, you can contact DSA Lab at dairystandard.co.za. With this, we'll get more information where we can give you the price list, we can give you the submission request form. So the submission request form has enough information on this on the analysis that we are surrendering in the lab, and then in that instant we can also give you more information on the volume of the sample. So we need a minimum of 40 mils, 40 to 50 mils. That's the minimum that we can get. So this is to help in case of any questionable results that we can run a retest. So enough sample with a minimum of 40 mils can be submitted, and the clients are welcome to submit the samples in. And also, if we have clients that are really far, we do encourage that they do overnight express, because we are working with milk. We would like to receive the milk in good condition and it's still in its best integrity, so that it can reflect a good example or a good results of what the sample they have in their tank.
And then you now said that they can send it overnight, but what is the temperature that the samples need to be when they arrive at the lab?
The cold chain needs to be kept between 2 to 8 degrees Celsius. So we always advise our clients to pack enough ice just for overnight when it's really hot, that your sample is still kept between the 2 to 8 degrees Celsius, so that the sample arrives in the lab while still in a good condition.
Okay, wonderful. I've got a question here from Deerwold. I am not too sure. Deerwold, you said, do you ever do Gerber test if your FT is down for some reason?
Please repeat the question.
Yeah, he's asking, let me just see. Do you ever do a Gerber test if your FT is down for some reason?
Oh, the Gerber test. No, we don't have. We only run the FTIR. But if ever the client wants the Gerber test to be done, we'll sure to communicate with the client first, because that can be arranged where we can outsource the sample so that we can do that. But then now in the lab, we only have the milk scan, which is the FTIR.
Okay, I hope that answers your question, Dewald. And then another question, are customer samples kept for some time? And how long is the samples kept? If there's maybe, for instance, a discrepancy and they would like to request a retest. So how long is the samples kept?
The retention is not for long. Remember that the milk samples are very sensitive. So what we do when the samples come in, we test them. That also depends on the time of arrival. So we always encourage the clients to submit the samples as soon as possible in the early hours. That will be anytime before 1. So in that instant, we still have enough time to run some retest, because as you are testing, you are also looking at the results that are coming out, and you also, like we have experienced analysts who know, of course, sometimes we wouldn't know if this milk is uh, fat free or full cream or anything, but then now we know what we're expecting. So if you're seeing something um, that is not looking good, the results that are not looking good, so we just run a retest. So just to confirm that whatever we have, so in between the retest, we having the control samples just to be sure. So it's always best that we run the retest on the same day, and so that we are sure, because leaving the sample, especially the milk sample, over 2 to 3 days, it might spoil and it might not give you the same reflection of the sample when it came into the lab.
Okay, wonderful. Is there any more questions from the delegates? If not, I've got another one. Are there any of your analysis that you are outsourcing?
Yes, like we said on I think the third or the fourth slide with the Brucella, we are currently, since we are still in the process, we are in the process of also being able to run that in-house. We are outsourcing Brucella, that is the MRT samples, to ARC, that is an honest board. And if ever there are any other analysis that we are able to do, maybe if now our FTR is not working, then we communicate any to the client before outsourcing anything.
Okay, okay. Okay, and you also said that you are in the process of your getting accredited by SANAS?
Yes, that's correct. So the application has already been submitted with SANAS, so we are now in communication with them. And we are looking forward to have them auditing our lab, because we are ready. And yes, so we are in the process of getting an accreditation with them.
Sure, that's wonderful. That's normally a stressful period for audits,
It
but
is.
but I'm sure that you will be ready.
Yes.
Okay, it seems like there's no more. Oh, wait, let me see. There's one more question. Um, uh, the person's asking, are you able to make the results of a retest available?
Yes, upon the request.
Upon request. Okay,
Yes.
wonderful. So, delegates, if there's no more questions, I'll give it another few seconds. Then we are going to end off this webinar. And thank you so much. That's wonderful. Everybody is just saying thank you. And I'm sure of it, your email and your phone is going to be busy with a lot of people that would like to contact you to make use of your services. So thank you very much, everybody, for attending. Please make use of providing us with feedback. There's a short survey after the webinar ends. And we would really like to hear if there's any other topics that you would like to know more about. The recording will be available. The recording is available on the Food Focus website under resources, and it's normally available before the end of the week. When you go to the webinar resource page, you will see all the previous webinars as well. There's been an article also that was written by Plaas Media in connection with the legislation and the environment of legislation within the dairy environment. So please go and have a look at that as well. And then please take note that it would also be available on the Dairy Standards website under webinars. So please go and have a look there as well. Then, just as a reminder for you, for those who are not aware, there is a Food Safety Summit happening in Johannesburg on the 4th and the 5th of June. And should you like to register, please go to foodsafetysummit.co.za. You will also be able to see the program, and there's also an exhibition with different exhibitors. So please make sure to go and have a look and register to attend this event. Then I would like to say thank you to Nala for her time and for a great presentation. Thank you to the Dairy Standard Agency for sponsoring this webinar. And also please note that the next webinar will be on the 15th of May. Please make sure that you subscribe to the Food Focus newsletter or follow us on any of the social media platforms where you will be able to see what the topic is going to be about on the 15th of May. And then just as a note, you will get an attendance certificate that gets issued by the GoToWebinar platform. This will be emailed to you tomorrow. Please note, it's not possible for me to reissue the certificate. So if you get the email, make sure to download your certificate and save your certificate, because it's not possible for us to reissue the certificate. And then the certificate also is in the name of the person that registered. So I do know that sometimes people register and then they watch in a group, but there's only one person that registered. Unfortunately, only that person will get a certificate and not the people that did not register. And then also note that the certificate cannot be used for CPD points, as the presentation wasn't submitted to acquire CPD points. But with all of that said, I hope you enjoyed the presentation, and we are looking forward to seeing you on the 15th of May. And Nala, to you, good luck with everything. And I can just see that the laboratory is going to become bigger and bigger. And for that, I wish you all the best. And thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much, Adele, for this. And thank you to everyone who has joined. We really appreciate your attendance and presence.
Fantastic. Have a lovely day, everybody. Enjoy your day off tomorrow. And until the 15th of May, keep well. Bye-bye.